Hi everyone, my name is Shelly, and today we're going to continue the discussion on the learning material BSBITU402, or develop and use complex spreadsheets. All right. So what we're going to do right now would be to develop, or what we're going to learn about is to develop a linked spreadsheet solution. We would want to utilize spreadsheet design software functions and formulae to meet identified requirements. So like spreadsheet design software, learning resources, formulae, and functions. Um, so the spreadsheet design software covered in this course will be Microsoft Office Excel. Excel is arguably the most common spreadsheet application on the market and is often considered to be an industry standard. We shall be using Excel 2007, as there are still many businesses using MS Office 2007, and there are significant differences between Excel 2007 and 2010. Learning resource, as you work through the learner guide, you will develop overall competency in using Microsoft Office Excel software functions and formulae. Along the way, you will have various activities to complete and be referred to a number of video tutorials to support your learning process. For the formula and functions, one of the things that makes Excel such a powerful tool is the ability to set formula and functions to perform calculations automatically. Okay, so what are formula and functions? So there are a lot of things in Excel that you can do. So there are operators. You have the arithmetic operators, and you have the comparison operators. So the caret means exponentiation. So for example, 3 squared or 3 to the second power. You write it that way. The percent sign. So this will be for you taking percent, which is 20%. The asterisk, which signifies multiplication. So 3 asterisk 3 means 3 times 3. The forward slash signifies division. So 3 forward slash 3 means 3 divided by 3. The plus sign is for the addition. So 3 plus 3. Minus sign is for subtraction or for negation. So it can either be 3 minus 1, or it can be before a number. So it would be negative 1. You have comparison operators, which is the equal sign. So it means equal to. So for example, A1 is equal to B1. You have the greater sign. It's the greater than, which is A1 greater than B1. Less than, which would be the less than sign. You also have the greater than or equal sign. So basically, it's the greater than sign with the equal sign right after it. And then the less than or equal sign right after each other, which means less than or equal to. And then you have the less than sign and the greater than sign side by side, which means not equal to. So A1 is not equal to B1. And changing the order of operations. To change the order in which Excel calculates the formula, enclose the part of the formula you want to be calculated first in a parenthesis. So for example, the formula equals 6 plus 7 asterisk 8 produces 62 because the mathematical rule is M dash, or multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So that's the order in which Excel calculates, or the general rule for calculation. So for this example, it will be 62 because M dash, so multiplication first, so 7 times 8 plus 6. All right. The formula, again, the formula multiplies 7 by 8 and then add 6 to the result. But if you change the formula to equals parenthesis 6 plus 7, and then outside of the parenthesis you have asterisk 8, it would produce 104 because the ones that you put or enclose in the parentheses would be done first. So for example, in this part, you would have inside the parenthesis 6 plus 7, so that would be 13 times 8, which would then be 104. Okay. So some more of the operators, you have ampersand. So this connects or concatenates two values to produce one continuous text value. So for example, quote within quote north and quote wind. So when it will imply, or it will write north wind. You also have colon. So this is a range operator which produces one reference to all the cells between two references, including the reference. So for example, you're defining B5 to B15. So you write it as B5 colon B15. B5 and B15 included. Comma, this is a union operator which combines multiple references into one reference. So for example, you wanted to get a sum. So you get sum parenthesis B5 colon B15 indicates that you want to sum up B5 and B15 plus D5 colon D15. So you're summing up B5 to B15 values and D5 to D15 values. Space, this would be an intersection operator which produces a reference to cells common to the two references. So B7 colon D7, C6 colon C8. So you might want to try to kind of like do this in Excel so that you can see how it's done. Again, we have the reference operators, colon, single space, comma, negation, as in -1, so you have the dash, percent, you have the percent sign, exponentiation, you have the caret, multiplication and division, you have asterisk and forward slash, addition and subtraction, you have the plus and minus sign. To connect two strings of text or concatenation, you have the ampersand. And then for comparison, you have equal, not equal, less than or equal to, greater than equal to, and not equal. So for order of operation, again, formula calculates values in a specific order. So a formula in Excel always begin with an equal sign, which tells Excel that the succeeding characters substitute or constitute a formula. Following the equal sign are the elements to be calculated, or which we call the operands, which are separated by calculation operators. Excel calculates the formula from left to right according to specific order for each operator in the formula. If you combine several operators in a single formula, Excel performs the operations in the order shown in the table below. If a formula contains operators with the same precedence, for example, if a formula contains both a multiplication and division operator, Excel evaluates the operators from left to right. Okay, so functions, in essence, a function is a preset formula in a spreadsheet that is designed to act as a shortcut or common formula. Because they are a type of formula, all functions begin with an equal sign, followed by the function's arguments contained within parentheses. So arguments are the values that the function uses to perform operations or calculations. So the type of argument a function uses is specific to the function. Common arguments that are used within functions include numbers, text, cell references, and names. So when you're entering functions, you can simply type the function and its argument directly into the cell, or click into the cell and type, if you want to type in this particular formula, sum A2 colon A15 comma B2 colon B15 comma C16. Okay. Alternatively, you can use the function library. You can see that here on the formulas tab on the Excel ribbon as shown below. Okay, or as shown in the slide. Okay, so this is what you wanted to do. So the function is the sum. So always when you're trying to enter it in Excel, you always have to start with an equal sign so that it tells Excel that you're doing a formula or calculation. And then next is the function. So basically what it's just going to do, instead of you typing all plus signs, you can just type in sum. And then in the parentheses, what are the arguments in the sense, which is going to be covered by the function. So you have to enclose it in parentheses. All right, hold on. So for example, if you're going to do this in Excel, so let's open up an Excel. So let's pretend we've typed in these values. Okay, so hold on. All right, so the formula said sum equals A2 to A15, if I'm not mistaken. And then it also asks you for B2 to B15. And it also asks you for C16. Close it, enter. I should give you the answer. All right. So that's pretty much how you do it in Excel. The numbers that I've put in on the columns are just samples, just so that we can see an answer filled up. But if you look, you literally would just have to either double click to type in or just enter equal right away. All right. So that's it. So let's go back. All right. So activity 2, familiarize yourself with the functions available in Excel, either by going to the list of functions in the Excel help function or in the function library in the formulas tab of the Excel ribbon. All right, so let's go into that. So you want to go to the formula, and there's a lot of things in there, so you can just kind of like check that out. But basically, it really would just be typing in, whatever it is that you want to do. Okay. So what are the types of functions? So Excel recognizes over 300 different functions, which are obviously too many to list here. However, you can find them all in the Excel help documentation along with the description, their syntax, and one or more examples of their use. Okay, so we'll try to kind of like run it in Excel as we go along and see if we can give you an example on that. So date and time function. So for example, for date, so date and time functions, Excel stores all dates as integers and all times as decimal fractions. With the system, Excel can add, subtract, or compare dates and times just like any other numbers, and all dates are manipulated by using this system. In the system, the serial number 1 represents 1/1/1900 or 12 AM. Times are stored as decimal numbers between 0.0 and 0.9999, where 0.0 is start and 0.9999 is 235959. So financial functions, Excel includes a broad range of financial functions which are useful for performing financial analysis. This is the following: interest rates, current values of investment, future values of investments, term durations for loans and investment, impact of increasing or decreasing payments on a loan. So these are just some of the examples. So you can see here, date returns the sequential serial number that represents a particular date. For now, it gives you the date. Basically, it's just now parentheses. Gives you the date, time, hour, minute, and second. Today, parentheses. It also has no argument. So let's try that and see now. So right now it's October 10, 2020, and it's 8:40 p.m. Okay, what are the other functions that it said? So let's type, what is it? Sorry, time value. Let's see that. Today. Gives you the date today, which is 10/10/2020. All right, so that's pretty much it. And then you can change the format if you wanted to do so. So logical functions, logical functions actually make use of the comparison operators to introduce a decision-making process to your spreadsheets, allowing Excel to do one thing or another based upon the data it is referencing. So all of the logical functions either return a true or false result when the functions are evaluated. The if function allows you to produce one output for the true result or a different output for a false result, which allows for decision-making processes in Excel as well. By nesting logical functions, or using further logical functions within the arguments of other logical functions, so it's a logical function within a logical function, you gain the ability to implement more complex decision-making processes. Excel 2007 allows for up to 64 levels of nesting in functions, well, the earlier versions only allow for up to 7 levels of nesting. So that's a lot of logical function nestings. So let's try. So and returns true if all of its arguments are true. False returns the logical value false. If specifies a logical test to problem. If error returns a value specified if a formula evaluates an error, otherwise returns the formula result. not reverses the logic of its argument, or returns true if any argument is true, returns a logical value to true. So let's try if. So for example, let's just try if C8 is equal to D8, it should say okay. Otherwise, no. Let's try this and see if it'll work. Huh? I said okay because C8 is 2 and D8 is 2. What if it's different? So let's change the formula. So for example, instead of being equal, if C8 is equal to D9, let's say if it will still say okay. It said no because C8 is 2 and D9 is 7. And our formula is if C8 is equal to D9, it should return okay. Otherwise, it should say no. So this time it said no. Okay. So what else? Okay, so that's pretty much it. So you just kind of like just program what result it would give you if it satisfies your comparison formula, and what would it give you or return to you if it doesn't. So just kind of like putting that in. All right. Okay, lookup and reference function. So this is very helpful if you're referencing multiple reports with one key lookup factor. For example, you're using the employee number and you're trying to reference one file from another, and you can use the common value to use is the employee number. Then you can just use that for the lookup function. So Microsoft Office Excel has a number of functions to help you work with arrays of data. They include functions that return the location of any given address or value, and functions to look up given values. So these functions can greatly simplify the process of finding specific entries within a large data table. Often complex nested logical functions can be simplified by using the appropriate lookup and reference function. So you can choose a value from a list of value. Lookup looks up values in a vector array. You have rows, returns the number of rows in a reference. Lookup looks in the first column of array and moves across the row or return the value of a cell. So VLOOKUP, what would be the one that you're looking for, and would be the table array. So you would have to have a few data samples, but let's see. So for example, we can type, let's do months. January, February. The beauty of Excel is once you are able to set up a pattern, you can just drag it. They'll give you that. So that would be the month. And then, for example, this would be, let's just try customers. Sales, for example, just example. Sale for that day. So you wanted to see, let's say employees. Okay, whatever. But you would have to have like a common thing, and then you would refer it to something else. So let's say, for example, let's just try to mimic and see. Okay. So this I'm gonna use, and then let's pretend that's 6, 9, 8, 7. So for example, let's return. I want to find what would be, for example, this is 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. These are just sample data, so don't be bogged down by it. I'm just making things up for the values. All right, so you wanted to find, for example, you wanted to find February data at January at 2 p.m. You wanted to compare them. So for example, we look up want to find that here, and you want to say you were looking for 2, right? For the corresponding value at 2 p.m. So that's 1. So that's 1, 2, 3. You wanted it to return the third column, otherwise it would be 0. 7. So let's look into that. So we wanted to look up A2, which is January, and what's the value at 2 p.m.? 7. So it returned that. Okay. That's pretty much how you do the lookup and reference functions. Very okay. There are a lot more math and trigonometry functions. These are mathematical functions for carrying out common mathematical calculations, including basic arithmetic, conditional sums and products, and trigonometric calculations. So the math and trig functions also provide a number of tools for working with numeric values such as rounding or truncating, identifying the sign, or generating a random numeric value within defined parameters. Okay. The next one would be statistical functions. Excel has many statistical functions that can be used to analyze data in a variety of different ways. So these functions can be used to find common statistical functions, such as finding the average value or ranking data by its largest and smallest values, as well as more complex functions or operations such as standard deviation. So you have average, count A, max, min, standard deviation. So let's try average. So we already have a couple of numbers here. So we wanted to get the average of B2 to 18. So you pretty much just type average. This is the function. And then the parentheses, because you want to define the argument. And then that's the average, 2.125. Okay. So we wanted to find out average. You wanted to find out the max. So what's the max number? So again, max, and then you define the arguments. There you go. The maximum number is 4. Let's check if it's really 4. 4, blah, 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 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's right. And then you wanted to get the min. So that's the minimum. And again, you define it. All right. There you go. The lowest number is 1. That's the minimum. Okay. Oh, let's also do count. So how many numbers in the list? Let's see if it'll work here. Count. So how many are there? How many entries? There are 16. So let's see if that's right. There's a neat way of checking. If you look here, it also counts. It also gives you the average, the sum, and the count. So that's there. So there's 16. If you want to do manually 1, 2, you would see that it's column 17 to column 2. So yeah, so the count is 16. All right. Next one would be concatenate. So the text function. Excel includes a number of very useful functions to assist you with working with and in manipulating strings of text-based data. Many of these tools allow you to extract, insert, and join parts of the text entries within a cell. So concatenate would be joining several text items into one text item. Find one text value within another. Left returns the leftmost character from a text value. Len returns the number of characters in a text string. Returns a specific number of characters from a text string starting at the position you specify. So mid and right returns the rightmost characters from a text value. Text formats a number and converts it to text. Okay, so for example, has to be text, right? So let's say, so let's do January and February. So let's put them together. So concatenate, and you want to do that. And what's the other? Do you want a space in between? Because you can. So quote, space, quote, comma, and then you wanted to include it with January. There you go. It will give you January, February. If you wanted to put the word and, you can do that also. Concatenate, and then whichever you want to put together, January. This time you're not putting a space, you wanted to put an and, right? And then whatever the text is. All right, let's see that. Now it says January and February, okay? If you don't put anything in between, that can be done also. If you don't want to put anything in between, so just write A2 and A3. There's no space. You'll just literally put them together. Okay, now let's try left. So it will give you, so let's remove all of these because we're done with that. So for example, you wanted the first two leftmost character. You wanted to return the first two leftmost characters. So left, and then whatever it is that you want, you reference, and then the number of characters. So let's say 2. And it should give you AP because the first two leftmost from the left characters of April is AP. Now, let's try right. So we wanted to get the last 3 characters in November. So let's do that. 3, let's define. And it should give you bear. There you go. Pretty easy. All right, so those are just examples. Now text, formats a number and converts it to text. So for example, the date today is 10/10/2020, right? So let's just type that in. You wanted to give you the day in text format. So pretty much you just have to type in text and then the reference, the value, and what you wanted to return. So for example, day. So there you go. It will give you Saturday. If you wanted to give the month, you can just type in. It will give you October, right? So that's how you do it for text. Okay. Showing formula and function. So formula essentially is an equation that calculates a new value from existing value. So again, a formula can be as simple as basic addition, like A1 plus B1, or it can be a complex combination of operators, references, and functions. Our formula begin with an equal sign and then makes use of cell references combined with operators and functions to make up the formula. Showing formulas and functions. When you look at the spreadsheet in Excel, the cells generally display the value produced by any formula they contain. Sometimes it's actually, it already gives you the value, right? Like we saw earlier. Sometimes it's useful to be able to see the formula in the spreadsheet. This can be done quickly and easily by using the show formula option in Excel. Simply click the show formula button in the formula auditing group in the formula tab. Activity 3. All right, so go to the Bureau of Meteorology website and locate the weather observations for your local area. So using the data, create a spreadsheet showing the temperature and apparent temperature for the previous 5 hours. Create another column that uses a formula to calculate the difference between the temperature and the apparent temperature. Use functions to calculate the average for the temperature and apparent temperature over the 5-hour period. Use functions to determine the maximum and minimum for temperature and apparent temperature over the next 5 hours. That should be easy, all right? So you just create a spreadsheet and then, just create a table where you can just type in the data that you've gathered from the Weather Bureau or the weather website. And then just do the formula, the functions that we've discussed earlier, okay? So for linking spreadsheets, when developing spreadsheets, you will often find yourself using the same data across multiple worksheets or even across multiple workbooks. In this situation, it can be valuable to link these worksheets and workbooks together using the tools provided in your spreadsheet software. So for multiple worksheets, it's easy to create, format, and edit multiple worksheets at the same time. Linking cells allow you to easily link cells so that any changes to the source cell will automatically be applied to the linked cells. The simplest way to link a destination cell so that it will always reference a particular source cell is to reference the source cell in a formula. The example below, or the one that you see on the screen, shows worksheet from a spreadsheet containing some sales data for awesome landscapes, and then linking to cells in a different workbook allows you to not only link to cells in different worksheets within the same workbook, but also to cells contained within different workbooks. Okay. For example, we say we wish to add a cell that calculates a difference between gross sales in 2012 and 2011. It's best to try to do this in Excel so that you can try to kind of like see it. Formatting cells. When developing spreadsheets, it's often necessary to use multiple formats and formatting techniques across different cells. So Microsoft Office Excel has a number of tools that are useful for formatting cells. One of the most useful is the Format Cells dialog box, which can be opened by right-clicking on a cell and selecting the Format Cells option from the drop-down menu. This dialog box can also be opened from a number of different places in Excel, where you have options to change some of the cell formatting, like using Control-Shift-F hotkey will open the Format Cells dialog box to the Font tab. The Number tab, each cell has a number tab, often referred to as a data type, that describes the type of data expected to populate that cell. By selecting the appropriate number format, you will ensure that the data displays in the appropriate format of the worksheet. Many of the number format categories have further options available for selection in the type window. We'll see, I'll show you a little later. Custom cell formats. You can also use the number tab to design custom formats. This allows you to use formatting codes to express your data in formats not specifically built into Excel. So this is a very powerful tool that gives you a great deal of control over the way Excel displays your data. While the full utility of these options beyond the scope of this course, we will provide you with a simple example along with some tables showing the formatting codes available. So let's try that. So this one, for example, you don't want it to appear this way. You want it to appear maybe date and month. So right click and then go to format. Hold on, let's see. Okay, sorry. All right, format cells, and then a box will appear. So we said earlier we wanted it to appear like the date and the month in text form. So you can just select that and click, and voila. It now had converted the full date format to just the day and the month in text form. All right. Now, for example, the numbers that you see here. Let's, for example, say that this is 2.54 and this is 3.55. Okay. And you want the others to also have decimal places. So for example, these are the odd numbers, right? I mean, in the sense that everything else has no decimal, but these ones have decimal. So you can define that, go to Format Cells again, and go to Number, and you can define the number of decimal places. So you can replace that with 0, and it would have rounded up already, okay? Or you can do the reverse. You can go to another one, and you can make it have decimal places, and it'll give you 2 zeros, right? So that's how you format the numbers here, okay? All right. You can also, so there are a lot of formatting thingies here. You can also define if it's currency, if it's the time, you can define the format also. If it's text, then it will just say number, or if it's custom, you know, you can just choose from here, all right? So activity 4, open Excel, enter the date 1st January 2013 into a cell. Okay, now open the Format Cells dialog box by right-clicking on the cell and selecting the Format Cells option. Select the date format. You will see a type. Okay. So that's pretty much like what we did earlier. So it said should be January 13, 1993. Is that the date and time? Sorry, 2013. All right, 2013. Okay. So format cells. You can do that. It'll give you what day was it on that particular day. You can again change it to this type. You can do that. And then just change it again. You want to do it that way, it can be that way. So again, it depends on what type of formatting you want to use. All right. So you can just change it to a lot of different types. Okay. So what are the formatting codes? These are used within sections of a custom format. These codes are shown in the table that you will see on the slide. So you have general number format. You have the 0-digit placeholder, number sign or hashtag. This code does not display extra zeros. Question mark. This code leaves a space for insignificant zeros but does not display them. Period would be for decimal number. Percentage, Microsoft Excel multiplies by 100 and adds the percentage character. And then comma, this would be thousand separator. And then you have the scientific notation. Okay. Okay. So this characters formatting code, you have the $, minus, plus, /, parentheses, colon, space. These characters are displayed in the number. To display any other character, enclose the number in quotation marks or preceded with a backslash. Backslash character, this code displays the character you specify. Text, this code displays text. Asterisk, this code repeats the next character in the format to fill the column with. Only one asterisk per section of a format is allowed. For the underscore, this code skips the width of the next character. This code is commonly used as quote, underscore, parenthesis, close parenthesis, quote. So it would be underscore, close parenthesis, to leave space for a closing parenthesis in a positive number format when the negative format includes parentheses. So this allows the values to line up at the decimal point. Then you have at for the placeholder. Formatting codes again, M, month as a number without leading zeros. Month, MM, month as a number with leading zeros. MMM would be month as an abbreviation, Jan, Feb, March, April. 4Ms would be unabbreviated month, January to December. And then same goes for day and for the year. So for example, let's go back to this. So text M. So January is 1, right? If you want to do with the leading 0, so you pretty much have to do MM. So you have 01. You wanted to get the abbreviated text or the abbreviation for Jan, which is JAN, 3 M's. There you go. And if you want to just return the full month, text. All right. And then you do 4 M's. 1, 2, 3, 4. There. All right. Same goes for the day and for the year. For the year, it's YY, which is the last 2. And then 4 Ys for the entire year. So for example, text. You want to just do YY 13 for 2013. If you wanted to return the full year, then you do YY. That's 4. All right, 2013. There you go. You also have for hours, H, double H, hours as a number without leading zeros, HH for hours as a number with leading zeros, minutes as a number without leading zeros, it's 1M. 2 M's would be minutes as a number with leading zeros. 0 to 59. S would be seconds as a number without leading zeros, and seconds as a number with leading zeros. Then AM, PM is time based on the 12-hour clock. Okay, so black, blue, cyan, green, magenta. color N. This goes to display the characters in the specified color. So N is a value from 1 to 56 and refers to the N color in the color palette. Condition value. Condition may be less than, greater than, equal, greater than or equal, less than or equal to, not equal, and value may be any number. So a number format may contain up to 2 conditions. Okay. So what are the cell attributes? These are considered to have a number of properties, or cells are considered to have a number of properties called attributes. So these attributes can be changed individually or copied from one cell to another. So the formula contained within a cell, but not the calculated value of the formula. So when you copy something with formula, it will copy the formula, not the results, okay? The value is the value of a cell, but not any formulas used to calculate that value. So for this one, whatever is the value of that cell, but not the formula. Formats, cell formats, already, like the one that we mentioned earlier. Comments, any comments linked to the cells. And validation, any validations attributed to the linked cells or linked to any of the cells. So absolute and relative cell referencing. Okay, so copying cell attributes. You can use the format painter on the clipboard section of the ribbon to copy cell formatting attributes from one cell to another. So for example, you wanted this particular format to be applied to this one. So copy, and then it will also, now it will give you the same format, like date first and then followed by the month. So clicking on the Format Painter button copies the cell attributes of the selected cell and allows you to paste the attributes into a selection of cells. You click in or click and drag the mouse pointer across so that you don't have to go to the format cells, so that you don't have to format all of the cells. You can just copy the cell attributes by using the Format Painter button, like the brush. You can also double click the Format Painter button to toggle the Format Painter so that it will paste the cell attributes to any cells you select until you either click the Format Painter button again or hit the escape key. Okay. Absolute and relative cell referencing. As shown in the formula and function sections, when developing spreadsheets, it's often useful to reference the data in one cell of the spreadsheet in order to use it as a part of a formula in another cell. So this can be done in 2 ways: absolute cell referencing or relative cell referencing. So absolute cell referencing is different. It's used when you want the cell reference to stay fixed on a specific cell, row, or column, regardless of where it is copied to. So absolute referencing is specified by using the $sign when referencing another cell. So if you were to take another look at the example using the absolute referencing, we would get a different result. So you can look at this. Relative referencing would be, this is the default form, okay, of cell referencing in Excel. So when you copy a relative cell reference and paste it into a different cell, the reference cell location changes relative to the location of the cell that it's referencing in relation to the additional reference. For example, if you reference A1 and B1 in cell C1 using the formula C1 equals A1 plus B1, then you copy the formula C1 down to C3, you will get the result as this. Okay, so for example, all right, so let's use this an example. So you wanted to do, for example, J2 plus K2. Okay, if I just copy that to the next one, it will still do J, column J, because it copied that from that one, but it has now moved to row 3. This one is, that's what you call relative. So this is J2, K2. This will now be J3, K3. The next one would be J4 plus K4. Okay. Now, if, for example, I wanted to just add J2 to everything, to K2, K3, K4. So what I will do is J2 plus K2. Okay, but I will edit the formula and add $, meaning that this is fixed. I want J2 forever. Okay. So this one, if I copy it to the next one, J2 is fixed because I used the $, but it now has added to K3, which is what I wanted to do, right? So this one is J2 plus K2, and this one is J2 plus K3. And if I copy that again to the next one, this would be J2 plus K4. Let's do some quick math. 6 plus 7 is 13. 6 plus 2 is 8. 6 plus 3 is 9. All right? So that's pretty much the difference between relative and absolute cell referencing. All right. Activity 5. All right. So let's try this following exercises. Okay. Enter the following formula into B2, A2 asterisk B1. Okay. Copy the formula from B2 to all of the other cells and consider resulting values. And then change the formula in B2 to $A2 times $A1. Sorry, $1. Copy the formula from B2 to all the other cells and consider the resulting values. And then change the formula. So what did you notice? You'll find that there are 4 possible absolute and relative referencing options for each reference cell, which gives 16 possibilities for this formula for 4 by 4 equals 16. However, so just do that, A1 to 5, enter the value, and A, B, C, D, E, and then try changing the formula as discussed in here, okay? And then that should be fun. All right, so that's activity 5. Now you need to test formula to confirm output meets task requirements. So this part is the quality management part. So as with any document, errors can be made in entering formula, either through typos or through incorrectly applying the working formula. So maybe you've used relative referencing instead of absolute. So because of the automated nature of spreadsheets, it's very easy for these errors to destroy the quality of your data if unchecked. So think back to how different the outputs were in activity 5, the one I just completed, when simply changing the position of the $, while designating the absolute referencing in a formula. Imagine what will happen to your data if you make such a simple error when entering a formula. This is an example of the GIGO principle, which is garbage in, garbage out, which basically states that your output data quality is only as good as the data coming in and the formula that data is put through, okay? So this is to automate and standardize spreadsheet operations. So just remember, you need to actually check the output and see if that's the desired numbers. Otherwise, you would have to go back and check each formula and see where the error is coming from, okay? So for the spreadsheet automation, automation is the primary feature of spreadsheets that makes them so much more powerful than the simple accounting worksheet and tables from which they evolved from. So there are 2 primary types of spreadsheet automation. One is programming-based automation, and the other is non-programming-based automation. So programming-based automation, so both macros and add-ins in Excel are based on the Microsoft Visual Basic programming language. It's not necessary to use VB to create simple macros. However, a competent programmer can use VB to create macros much more complex that can be produced using the macro recorder in Excel. Macros will be covered in more detail in section 3.2. MS Excel Help defines add-ins as installed functionality that adds custom commands and new features to Microsoft Office system programs. Add-ins can be for various types of new or updated features that increase your productivity. Add-ins are software modules designed to work with and plug in to Excel. They can be purchased from software companies or downloaded from the internet and installed so that they are available for use in Excel. The non-programming based automation are the ones that we've talked about: functions, formula, and linking spreadsheets. And then we'll go through some templates also as we go forward. So macros in Excel, a macro is a series of instructions that can be triggered by a keyboard shortcut. toolbar button or a clickable button placed in a spreadsheet. They're primarily used for repetitive tasks that can take significant time to perform manually, but can be completed by a macro at the click of a button. Macros can be created quickly in Excel by using the record macro feature. They can also be created and edited using the Visual Basic editor. Well, knowledge of Microsoft Visual Basic can enable you to create very powerful macros. Knowledge of VB is not necessary for the creation and editing of basic macros. So macros are best managed from the developer tab on the ribbon. And by default, Excel has the developer tab hidden. To display the tab, you must change the option settings by taking the following steps. So recording macro, the simplest way to create a macro is to use the record macro button to record your mouse clicks and keystrokes. This enables you to record a series of commands. When you run the macro, it plays those exact commands back in the same order, causing Excel to behave just as if you have entered the commands yourself. So for running the macro, click on the View Macros button. This will bring up the macro list box. Then simply select your macro in the list and click Run. So notice the macro will always run from exactly the same place. By default, macros use absolute cell referencing. So for activity 6, imagine that your workplace uses Excel to track accounts receivable. Every week, you and your coworkers each submit a report in which your manager expects to see overdue amounts formatted in the following way. The numbers are bold and red, and the cells have red borders. So record a macro to apply these formats to a cell. So that's activity 6. Give me a second, let's check on that. So for example, doing that, where the amounts? Okay, 13,246, 2578, 3512, 1248, and 16983. So basically, he wanted you to just show the numbers, bold and red, cells have red borders. Okay, so you go to View and go to Macros, and then record macro. So for example, that's there. Amounts in red. This is the description. So he wanted it to be right. So now it's recording. So you want it to be red. You want it to be bold. You want it to be in amount format with 2 decimal places, and you also want the lines to be red at the border. All right. And then you go back to View, Macros, and then stop recording. Okay. And then we would have to run the macros. We're doing it right. Run this. Sorry. Okay, let's try that again. So we want to view the macros. Oops. Okay. And we wanted to run the macros. View macros, run it. Run. Okay, sorry about that. Let's close this one. Where are we in break mode? All right. So we're into some bit of hiccup there. So, all right. So this is how you run the macros. So you select which ones that you wanted it to look like. And then you go to the macro, you view your macro, you choose which one you want it to be. So we're choosing macro 2. This will be the amounts in red. And then you run it and it should be like that. So that would basically be returning the values in bold, in red, and in that particular order. Okay. All right, so assigning macros, shortcut keys. The simplest way to assign a macro is to a shortcut key. When you're creating the macro and the record macro dialog box comes up, Just enter the control key you wish to assign the macro to into the shortcut key section in the dialog box. You saw earlier, it asked you if you wanted to create a shortcut key. Quick access toolbar, assigning a macro to the quick access toolbar is almost as easy. Simply take the following steps. Form control button on the developer tab in the controls group. Click insert, and then under form controls, click button or form control, and then click the worksheet location where you want the upper left corner of the button to appear and drag out to where you want the bottom right corner to be. Then assign the macro to the button, edit the text name, the button appropriately, and then to specify the control properties of the button, right click the button, then click format control. Okay, so the next activity would be, one common task people need to do in Excel is to print out a specific section of a workbook. Well, this is straightforward. There are a few steps you need to remember to complete the task. So click the section of the workbook you want to print, click on the Office button, click on Print, click on the Selection button, click OK. Consider how useful it would be to have a button near Quick Access Toolbar to do this for you in just 2 steps. So select the section of the workbook you want to print on or click on the Print Selection button, and use what you have learned so far to complete the following. So create a macro called Print Selection that does this for you, and place that macro on your Quick Access toolbar. Then change the icon for the macro to the printer button. Okay. So for saving macros, when you record macros, the default setting to store it is just this workbook. For security reasons, standard files are not macro enabled in Microsoft Office. To save a file so that it is macro enabled, you have to specifically save as an Excel macro enabled workbook. Opening macro enabled workbooks, even though a .xlsm file is saved as a macro enabled workbook, when you open the file, you will still receive a security warning requiring you to click on an Enable Content button before the macros will be enabled. Editing the macros, if your macro is not working exactly how you would like it to do, like we saw it earlier, we had to go back and edit. You have the option of either deleting it and recording it again or editing it. Macros are effective computer programs written in Visual Basic programming language. When you record a macro, Excel produces a series of instructions in VB, which will reproduce the actions it recorded. Exporting and importing macros. Macros can be exported and imported into Excel using the Visual Basic Editor. Macros are saved by the VBE using the .bas file extension. Now for the Visual Basic Editor, macros can be edited using the VBE built into Excel. Even with little knowledge of Visual Basic, the parts of the VB code which make up the macro are usually not difficult to understand. Consequently, it's possible to make simple edits to macros using the VBE. To open the macro in the Visual Basic Editor, click on the View Macros button in the Code group of the Developer tab. On the ribbon, select the macro and click on Edit. All right, for Activity 8, open a new workbook and record a macro to set the header and footer to the following. Set the left header to show your name, set the center header to ampersand file, automatically links to the workbook name, and then set the right header to ampersand tab, automatically links to the worksheet name. And then set the center footer to page ampersand page of ampersand pages. This would automatically show current page number of total number of page numbers. Now open the macro in the VBE. What changes do you think you could easily make to this macro? So just try and see how it goes. That's for Activity 8. So we'll cut short the workbook here or the discussion here, and then we'll continue on the next topic for developing, editing, and using of templates to ensure consistency of designs and layout for forms and reports in accordance with organizational requirements. So that's it for today. We'll move on to the next video or the next session for the next part of the material. Bye for now.